June 15th. Coach Kristina. So today we're going to talk about controlling your own reality. What does that mean? I'm not really big into this like new age manifesting, and I believe some of that to a certain extent, but ultimately I believe a lot of that language and a lot of that philosophy comes from controlling the way we think, the way we feel, and how we act, which of course then would determine our outcomes in life, okay? So when I say controlling our reality, what I mean is controlling how we show up, how we think, and what we do each day to work closer to our goals. Let's just say you're here, and this is all the information in the world. This slice of the pie, I always joke, I can say I'm being very generous here, is the information that you know. There's a certain amount of things you know in life, at work, your skills. And then there's the information you don't know, which is great because, we've identified that. We can go after that. That's a little easier to learn because we know we don't know it. But then the rest of the information in the universe, unfortunately, is the stuff we don't know. And that's what we're after in these mindset calls. How much information can I understand that I don't know? How many golden nuggets can I get to apply that can, help me accelerate not only just this process, but everything in life? That's what we're doing here. And then I have a formula that we use that everyone has coined T, which is kind of funny because now Enron calls me Kristina, T-E-A, even though it's Kristina, T-I-N-A. Thoughts, emotions, actions. So we have circumstances in life and we have outcomes, and in between that we have thoughts. What do we think about the circumstance? Thoughts generate emotions, emotions generate actions, which ultimately dictates our outcomes. So this is where we tend to get in trouble. And these thoughts are flying at lightning speed. They start in the morning. I encourage everybody to get really curious about the thoughts that are flying through your mind, because then it gets involved in creating emotions in the body, and then actions, or even inaction, or complete just being paralyzed, really stuck in a cycle of negative thoughts. This takes a lot of self-awareness, work to understand the thoughts. I've been working on this for 15 years, and still it's just fascinating to me. I have to make a promise to myself every morning to get curious about my thoughts, watch them, because it's like, whoa, that was a thought error. That's not true. Let's get that in check. So I'm not feeling sad, depressed, anxious, because I want to feel at least neutral. I'm not saying you always have to feel like rainbows and butterflies, but you want to feel neutral, the belief of the possibility of good outcomes. So we'll get into that more we want to break down certain thought patterns, but this is the general formula that we follow here. Most mindset coaches out there that you'll meet, they might say this in different ways, but you want to stay somewhat, as much as you can, in control of your thoughts, because it's something like 85% of the thoughts you're having today are going to show up tomorrow. So the ones that we're trying to trash, we need to slowly start trashing them, not put them in the recycle bin so they keep coming around. We want to trash them. And that's what I mean by controlling your reality, okay? So since I started doing mindset coaching, which I've done for different career coaching companies over the course of my career, it's nothing new to me, but since I started with this group over the last 90 days or so, everything that I'm going to say today is just a new and different way of saying it. So sometimes everything goes back to feeling, I've heard this before, whatever, but it's foundational, guys. It's always just a reminder in your face, like putting things in check. That's the whole secret behind mindset stuff, is it's all foundational and just a reminder of what we already know. Controlling your own reality. Most people around you, I'm sure you can think of a few, like to think that they can change everything around them. They think that they can find some peace in maybe blaming others. That feels easy, blaming others, or the economy, or your boss, or your spouse, or your friends. And there's this huge misconception that it's easier to do that versus easier to change yourself. And so I want to offer to you that it's easier to change the controllable. Like, it's easier to change yourself, especially on the path of growth. So if you have a path of growth in mind, or a way you want to change, you have to really identify the components of that are in your control. What is in your control, and act on those as much as possible. One of my mentors, I've said this before, talks about the river of life. Okay, it's always flowing. By the river of life, I mean the good things that you want: opportunity, joy, relationships, networks, whatever it is you're after of life is in this river of life that is flowing. But it's also neutral. Like, you don't have to go to the river of life. This is, of course, an analogy here, but you get to choose. It's completely neutral. You go to it or you don't. And when you go to it, you get to choose how much you take from it. Is it a thimble, a little scoop? Or are you sucking out as much water as you possibly can and going to that sucker with like a hose? And it's your choice. So again, that goes back to just controlling your own reality. Now, coincidentally, this week in my leadership course, Brandon Dawson is talking about just this. I actually planned on talking about this last week before I got in my little accident. So nobody can say it better than he does. So I know, again, guys, everything that he said, that's what I preach here every week, 2 times a week, is being very, very careful about how you choose how you choose your thoughts, because it is a trap. Let me give you just a quick example. You can take what you want from it, but my personal assistant / nanny, because I put this on my TikTok today, and she uploads my TikToks, and she goes, I don't really understand that. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, it's so much easier to blame other people. And I'm like, that's the point. Like, that is the myth. That is the broken belief. Like, that is the common misconception that we've all bought into at some point. Even now you might be thinking, well, of course that's easier, but really it's easier if you don't want to stay stuck. So like, let's just say somebody who says, I'm broke and that's it. It's my dad's fault and the economy's fault, whose ever fault it is. Well, they're just going to stay stuck there because those thoughts lead to no action. If they can say, okay, well, I epically screwed up by not, pursuing this opportunity, or I didn't do XYZ, fill in the blanks for your own life. You've had these things pop up. Well, that propels you into a different state. And once you're in that state, a different state, then you can take action. And that is easier when it comes to getting results. Now, if you're not craving growth and results, yeah, sure, blame everyone else and go sit on the couch. Great. That's just an analogy. I know that I'm talking to people that are not struggling with being lazy on the couch or necessarily going broke, but it's that same way of thinking. And it's what everyone is doing around us. So if you take a careful look at the people around us, you'll see that is the way society is built. And it is very focused on sucking us into that same belief system that we just like have no control and that we can be in victim mode and that things are happening to us and not for us. That's why only like 1% of people are going to achieve what they set out to achieve, because of that hard wiring of thinking it's easier to blame others and then of course not taking action. Guys, I gotta tell you, I just spent 10 days with my family in Ohio, and it wasn't supposed to be 10 days. It was supposed to be like 4 days, and then I got in that accident. I am fighting to come out of like whatever is happening energetically. And these are good people, good, decently successful people, but the way that they think and the way that they conversate, I just eventually just was quiet because I just felt like we just didn't. God, these people I love so dearly. That's why it's so tricky and you have to watch it. Everything I would say, it was like the flip side, or like argumentative, or like negative, kind of like negative, like you said. And it didn't feel good. And I'm noticing how much that 10 days impacted me. So like if that was a daily thing, I would get nowhere. So if anyone's experiencing that, know that A, you're not alone, B, boundaries are allowed, and C, it takes a tremendous amount of self-awareness to understand if that's actually happening to you. So for us people who want to control everything, you can take that control freakness and just apply it to the stuff that you can control and not everything else. And then that is a very freeing feeling. That's the real secret sauce. If you can get to that place of only controlling what you want to control, and control your own space and your own thoughts, that's where the real growth is. Everything that like you want to do in life or with your growth is going to feel really, really scary. I've gotten really comfortable now with the fact that things are scary, and I'm like, yes, like I love scary because I know the results that come from pushing through that. I wanted to touch on this because again, the other trap that people get caught in is that's just too scary. Okay, well then if that's the case, nothing is going to happen, right? And then that's when you fall into the blame game. And then let's think about this. Like if we can, okay, think about this for a minute. Like if you have certain things in your mind every day that you say you're going to do and you haven't been able to, we have to develop enough discipline to at least do the things that we say we're going to do on a daily basis. So if you can't develop enough discipline to do what you say you're going to do, if you're not going to wake up when you say you're going to wake up, or exercise when you say you're going to exercise, or communicate the way you said you were going to, or whatever it is you say you're going to do, if we cannot get to a place where there is enough discipline developed to act on that each day, your confidence is going to suffer extremely. And when your confidence suffers, you are not going to be successful in any environment. So think about this next role you're going to be in job-wise. How can you expect to be really successful? Now, don't get me wrong, there are people walking around in corporate America in high-level, high-paying positions, not having any discipline at all, but that's not who we want to be. So we have to develop this discipline of controlling what we can control, staying as neutral as possible, being out of victim mode, and simply doing what we say we're going to do. Because that feels good in the body. When you feel good in the body, you're confident. So like give yourself confidence. And it took years to develop all of this. I'm literally 15 years and still counting. Again, guys, there's also no finish line. When people talk about spiritual practices or yoga practice or whatever, this is a practice. And you just have to make yourself a promise every day that you just want to be a fraction of a percent better than yesterday. Even just, till we die. We were talking on our sales meeting today about people wanting to make penthouse decisions from floor level data and what the weight of, what was it? Heavy is the head of the person who wears the crown. That's what we were talking about. And I loved that because listen, with everything that I just said, that's leadership development, right? So now you've taken on the responsibility of learning the way that you think. Guys, only 1% of people are having this conversation. Learning how you think, trying to control your own reality, trying to get better, pushing for better, working through broken belief systems, all of that, you're earning this like heavy crown, that a king wears, because it comes with a lot of responsibility. Now you have social responsibility. How am I going to help my community, these companies, teams, people around me? All of this comes with tremendous responsibility. I was kind of like, oh, maybe I'll just keep a tiara or something. Maybe I don't want to wear the crown. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think I have a crown yet, but we're all working toward that. And obviously all of you here are craving that level of social responsibility within yourself, the companies that you impact, the people you impact, your community. That's one of our core values at ECU. I need to get those on our website. Social responsibility. And one of the things we do here is put a focus on family dynamics, because do you know how much this career path affects family dynamics, marriages? Some marriages don't even make it through this program. I'm not kidding, guys, because people start realizing things about each other and their relationships. Or maybe they finally do find the person that they want to be with, or are able to make more powerful decisions because they're empowered in other areas of their life. We take that really seriously. Certain emotions and feelings are completely optional. And it's kind of a harsh reality when we realize that, because then it's like, well, holy shit, my whole life I've been choosing to think and feel this one way, and it held me back. So if anyone is having the thought, oh my God, I've wasted the last 20 years at whatever job, or I'm too old, right? I always go back to take that thought and flip it and use it to your advantage. So instead of I've wasted 20 years at this job, you really have, if you want to get anywhere, you really have no choice but to change that thought to over the last 20 years, I've obtained XYZ skill set, or I've learned XYZ, just like what he said, but I would say get more specific, so your brain understands. So it's just like every day, if you say you're going to get up and work out, and you don't work out, those thoughts in your brain are getting stronger, because you're just proving your brain right. Like, she's not going to do it. Almost everybody here I know has underestimated themselves at some point. So Googling things like that and collecting evidence is awesome. And then of course, when you go into these interview situations, you want to look at the employee maturity map. So let's say you go in as SVP. Well, one of your talking points could be why you're qualified to grow, and what does that, growth track really look like, and get into your, again, I always tell people, if these companies, these people are not invested in your growth within the company and your personal, professional, and financial goals quarterly, you're probably going to find yourself pigeonholed pretty quick. Now, just to add to that, Google daily habits of a CEO. That is really interesting, because these guys are crushing their daily habits and their thoughts and their emotions, and how much emotion is brought into things, and their exercise and eating habits. Really interesting. You'll find a lot of content on that. Daily habits of a CEO, daily habits of high achievers. And for anyone that is seeking information and motivation throughout the day, please disregard anything that's not working for you. You gotta find what works for you. And that's a process in and of itself, as far as your morning routine, night routine, what helps you keep your thoughts in check, You can follow me on on TikTok and Instagram, Coach Kristina Madden. I try to put a little mindset tip of the day on there every day. A lot of it is probably what you're hearing here, but again, it's always reminders. And if anybody here like Sandra is struggling with like this lack of confidence in the interview, we have to figure out where that lack of confidence comes from, and then do as many things that we can during the day that feeds our confidence. Because like I'm always saying, and this may not hit home this is what happens with mindset coaching. I can say it, then one day it just hits. But this is all a game of confidence. So every day I'm after, like, okay, for example, I go back to my personal assistant because it's just so funny sometimes, okay? I sent her my mindset tip of the day. She's supposed to be uploading this to my TikTok or whatever. And she goes, wow, that hit me really hard. And I said, why don't you go on my TikTok and say, hey, this is Kristina Madden's assistant. She just said this. It flipped my way of thinking. She goes, oh my God, that's so scary. And I said, do it. It'll give yourself the gift of confidence. Okay, this is just an example. But these are the only ways that we can gain confidence, is to keep pushing through the things that sucks. This isn't always fun. Nothing is. Growth is not always fun. It sucks. And it's scary. And then your brain is going to tell you all the reasons why something's not right for you, or why you have to settle, or why people are better than you, or why people are more qualified than you. I'm not saying that there's not people out there more qualified than any of you. Sure, on paper, some things look really great, but this is why you have to be very good at interviewing. So this next interview prep session, when you go into your next interview, this is why we exist, okay? To try to get into your world and help you transform this and make this just a thing of the past. You're like, oh my God, I don't even know who that girl was on that recording, right? But so this next interview that you do get, let's take it deeper into the prep session, right? I think that'll really help. And then the things that maybe you might be avoiding throughout the day, I don't know what they are, but let's tackle some things that you know will bring you confidence. So are you creating LinkedIn content? Are you identifying companies and then contacting like top leaders in that company? I assume you're probably doing some of that. Which, by the way, here's a key thing I heard yesterday, great reminder. If you're out somewhere, or even on LinkedIn or whatever, try not to leave it in that person's hands to get a hold of you, right? So as much as you can, stay in control of the networking. So instead of saying like, oh, here's my number, call me, or I'll wait to hear from you, always keep it in your court. You're in the position of continuing that conversation. An in-person situation might look like, hey, Kristina, do you have a business card? Instead of me just handing them a business card, okay, great, nice to meet you, can't wait to hear from you. It's like, hey, why don't you give me your phone number and I'll text you my contact card. Then it keeps everything in my court. It took me 10 years to just push play on my Instagram live and do it continuously. So I might be somebody who looks like I'm radiating with self-confidence, but it was a practice. And guess what? I'm not a CEO, but I'm sure I'm coaching CEOs, right? Because I'm very convicted in my ability to help people shift the way they think. So you have to talk about the things that you're very convicted in. So she's talking about her Southern drawl and all these things that, oh my God, I hate the way I sound. I hate the way I'm talking. I even now to this day, I'll probably look at that TikTok that was posted today and be like, oh, in fact, I did recognize something I said in it. I missed a word or something, but I'm like, you know what, screw it. There's somebody out there that needs to hear it right now. Let her fly. Like what's gonna happen? I can either do that or not be seen. Like, which one do I want to do? Or keep hitting record and like bang my head against the wall for the rest of the day. I've just learned that through marketing and content and building this business. But you have to make it less about you, right? So you see how my mind went straight to, oh, forget how I feel about it. Somebody else needs to hear it. So if you think about this in terms of these people are desperate for what I can do, desperate for my skill set. In fact, here's a practice that you guys can all do. This is taking it a little heavy, but I learned this in sales. But if you, before a call or before an interview, you can close your eyes and picture this other person on the phone, like it's like pick a relative or something. Like for me, it was my dad, right? And let's say that he's a CEO or whoever of a company, and he's like desperate for my skill set. He's super stressed out. Maybe he's a little apprehensive of the call. Maybe he didn't even have time to talk to me, whatever. And I start thinking about that person and putting my focus on that person. And it brings a whole different energy to the call because I've made it so much not about me. And then just remember, people in the world are not sitting around analyzing race, accents. Sure, you have some assholes sitting around somewhere. Sure, you have some people somewhere that are jerks, right? But that's few and far between, I promise. People are not sitting around thinking like this. Just like when you walk into a gym, you have to remember everyone's on the same mission. They want to look better and feel better. You're not staring at them, or you know what I mean? Like you're not critiquing the way their butt looks in those leggings or whatever. So you just have to remember that people are not thinking of you the way that you think that they're thinking about you. You have to free yourself of that. When I just got back from Ohio, I've been home 48 hours now, so it's starting to fade, but I came from Ohio. Before you know it, I was like, y'all this, y'all that. But Sandra, a tip and trick for you to stay confident in your interview and stay grounded is to practice the exercise of staying present. One of the things I do is I'll keep my feet flat on the ground, or if they're on the phone, I stand up. I stand like with my shoulders back. Tap your feet on the ground. It keeps you grounded and in the present moment. And as much as you can, keep front of mind the outcome you want from the call. Or you can write it on a piece of paper, what you want the outcome to come, or stick a Post-it note that you can keep bringing yourself back to the present moment. Because when you're nervous and that nervous energy starts to bubble up, you're only thinking to respond, or even what they're saying starts to sound blurry. You can hardly even hear what they're saying because you've got the swirling thoughts in your head that are racing so quickly that you can't hear outside of that. And that's not a fun place to be, especially on an interview that you're really, really excited about. So you have to write down something like an outcome you want from the call. Let's just say there's a phrase, like I used to want people to say when they were enrolling in this program, yes, let's do it. So I would write down, yes, let's do it. The most important thing you guys can do on these interviews is stay present, because you cannot answer them clearly or solve any problems if you can't hear them and you're not in the moment. Then you're going to hang up and be like, oh my God, I totally missed a huge opportunity here. And then you start to hear and you start to replay the things that you wish you had paid more attention to. Take the blame off of yourself and just blame it on your brain. It's an organ doing its own thing. Your job is to become more aware of it, and you already are. Don't back out of this program yet. Do not give up yet, because you're right at this turning point that I see people at before they're ready to just throw in the towel and they don't feel good enough. You're right at a turning point. So here's what I think could be happening with some of your nervousness on these interviews. Maybe you are scared to be making mistakes because you have it so ingrained in your mind that you just made a huge mistake. So big, in fact, you were thinking, oh my God, this program's not good enough. I'm not good enough for these interviews. Mistakes, mistakes, mistakes. And turned my whole life into a mistake. Now we can get to work on how we can reframe the way that you're thinking about leaving that job. Because if you're looking at all of that as a mistake, you're going to be scared of making more mistakes. And what is a mistake anyways? No, it's nothing. When we move forward on something and we take action on something, everything that we collect from it, I look at it as data. Some of them can be good data points, bad data points, whatever. There are no mistakes, okay? You did this. Plus it's in the past. So let's say you don't want to do that again. Oh my God, okay, next time I look for a job, I'm gonna wait till I, have a new one. Cool. Can you make peace with that in your mind? That we can move past that a little bit, whatever part of that is like feeding the nervous energy, something to think about, and just use it as data. Again, guys, there are no mistakes. There's no rights and wrongs in life, okay? That's one of these things that are so ingrained in us since we were little, that we're scared to freaking do anything. We can only put in our field the things that serve us. So this thought that I made a big mistake and that I'm out of work and that's going to look bad, those just aren't true. It's just not true. I know it feels true and it sucks. And we can normalize that. Like, it's okay to feel that, and it's not going to go away until you recognize it anyway. So you kind of have to feel it, the grief of it. Like, oh man, I wish I stayed at that job. Okay, cool. But like, how can we make peace with it? And everyone around you is getting jobs, being out of work for a long time. Some people go consulting. Some people stop and have babies and raise full families. I mean, those are the thoughts I would start pulling. It's about your skill set. You have that. You're qualified. We'll connect and take a deeper look at the anxiety, the racing thoughts, the insecurity, the lack of confidence, which again, we all struggle with that on some level. Let's figure out if we can find the real root of that, okay? And then make me a promise that when you're preparing for an interview, you're gonna choose the thought, I'm gonna prepare for this for 1 hour. I'm not going to torture myself for 5 hours. All right, bye guys. We'll be on tomorrow at 11:30, and then next week we'll go back to the regular times, which is Monday at 1 p.m., Thursday at 11:30. So we have 2 days back to back this week. But tomorrow I'm going to talk about the power of your mind, which I can promise you is going to lead us right back to where we are right now, which is the foundational work of our thoughts. Okay.